A CEO pretended to sleep to test his shy maid, but froze when he saw what she did. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's go back to our main character. The mansion was silent except for the faint ticking of a wall clock. Sunlight spilled across the marble floor, glinting off crystal vases and the polished grand piano near the window. On the leather couch lay Ethan Cole, the man the world knew as the unshakable CEO of Cole Industries. But right now, he was pretending to be asleep. His breathing steady, eyes closed, one hand over his chest like a statue carved from confidence and control. What his staff didn't know was that Ethan had decided to test someone new, the shy maid who had joined just a week ago. Rumor had it she was quiet, almost invisible, but he'd seen her move with precision and grace, never wasting emotion, never complaining even when others mocked her accent or her old shoes. He wanted to know if her sweetness was real or just another mask. As footsteps approached, he resisted the urge to open his eyes. The sound was light-measured, barely touching the floorboards. Then, a soft gasp. She was standing there now. Mia, no older than 24, with a loose ponytail and a faded apron, her fingers tightening around a small towel. She froze at the sight of him still in his suit, one arm dangling off the couch, the other holding his phone, screen gone dark. "Mr. Cole?" she whispered. No answer. The silence stretched. She glanced toward the camera in the corner. Every servant knew it was there, and then back at him. Slowly, she set down her cleaning supplies. "He must have fallen asleep," she murmured, mostly to herself. The air conditioning hummed low. Outside, branches brushed against the tall glass windows. Ethan could hear her breath quicken as she bent slightly, hesitated, and then very gently picked up the phone from his hand, placed it on the side table, and adjusted the blanket over his shoulders. He could feel her fingers trembling through the fabric. Then something unexpected happened. She reached for a small glass of water from her tray, placed it beside him, and slipped a folded note underneath. Her handwriting was tiny, unsure. "You look tired. Drink this when you wake." Monsieur, for a second, Ethan almost opened his eyes. No one had done that for him in years, not since his mother. He felt something twist quietly in his chest. Mia stood still, looking at him like she wanted to say something more. Then she smiled faintly, bowed her head, and left the room as silently as she'd entered. When the door clicked shut, Ethan finally opened his eyes. The note was still there, her scent faint in the air, a mix of soap and lavender. He stared at it for a long moment, then at the security camera light blinking red in the corner. He reached for the remote and turned the feed back a few seconds, watching her movements replayed on screen. She hadn't stolen anything. She hadn't even touched his wallet on the table. Just the blanket, the glass of water, and that note. His lips parted slightly as the realization sank in. The test was supposed to expose dishonesty, but what it revealed instead was something he'd long forgotten: simple kindness. Outside, the clock chimed 9. Ethan leaned back, still holding the note between his fingers, unaware that this small act would change everything that followed. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the tall windows of the Cole mansion, painting gold lines across the marble floor. Ethan Cole sat at the breakfast table, coffee untouched, his phone open to the security feed from last night. He watched the loop again and again. Each time, his expression softened at the part where Mia gently pulled a blanket over him and left that small folded note. He had expected indifference or opportunism. Instead, he found compassion. "Interesting," he murmured, setting the phone down. For a man who built his empire on reading people, it unsettled him how wrong he had been. Later that morning, as the household staff moved quietly about, Mia appeared at the end of the hallway, holding a tray of fresh linens. Her steps were careful, her head slightly bowed, her ponytail swinging with each move. Ethan leaned against the doorway, watching her for a moment before speaking. "Good morning, Mia." She jumped, startled, nearly dropping the tray. "Mr. Cole, good morning, sir." "I am sorry. I did not mean to wake you yesterday." Her voice was nervous but polite, every syllable weighed with respect. He smiled faintly. "You did not. In fact, you made sure I slept better than I have in months." Confusion crossed her face. "Sir?" "The note," he said, gesturing toward the living room. It was very thoughtful. Her cheeks turned pink, eyes darting down. "Oh, I just thought you might get thirsty." He studied her a moment longer, amused by how genuine she sounded. "You are new here, right? 1 week?" "Yes, sir. I am still learning the routine." "And where were you before this?" She hesitated. "At Street Claire's nursing home. I took care of elderly patients." "That is not an easy job," he replied. "Why leave?" Her grip tightened on the tray. "My little brother is sick." The nursing home job paid too little for his treatment. Ethan nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. Inside, something in him shifted. He had built walls to keep emotion out, but her calm honesty cracked them slightly. When she excused herself to continue cleaning, he watched her go, quietly impressed. That evening, as the sky deepened into amber and violet, Ethan stood in his office reviewing reports. But his mind was not on numbers or meetings. It was on Mia. Out of curiosity or perhaps guilt, he pulled up the staff records. Everything checked out. Clean background. Glowing reference from Street Claire's. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling. So she really is who she seems. Downstairs, Mia was finishing her last task for the night, dusting the shelves in the sitting room. Her hands were dry from the cleaning agents, but she worked carefully, humming softly under her breath. Ethan entered quietly, not wanting to startle her this time. "You work late," he said. She turned, smiling shyly. "It is quieter at night, sir. Easier to focus." He nodded, walking to the window beside her. "Do you like it here?" She hesitated again, then nodded. "Everyone has been kind, mostly." That last word lingered. Ethan's brow furrowed. "Mostly." Mia bit her lip. "It is nothing, sir. Just a few comments from the older staff. I am used to it." He could guess what they were: class, appearance, maybe envy. "If anyone mistreats you, you come directly to me." Her eyes widened. "Oh, I could not blank." "You can," he interrupted gently. "And you should." Their eyes met for a moment, the air still. Then she nodded slowly. "Thank you, sir." As she turned back to her work, Ethan's gaze dropped to her handsard, cracked, steady. She had the hands of someone who built her life piece by piece. He realized how rare that was in his world of polished perfection. Later, when she left the room, he noticed something glinting on the floor near the bookshelf, a thin silver bracelet broken at the clasp. He picked it up carefully, recognizing it from earlier. The tiny engraving read, "To my daughter, with love." Ethan turned it over in his palm, wondering if it was her mother's. For reasons he could not explain, he placed it in his desk drawer instead of the lost and found box. As the clock neared midnight, he looked again at the folded note on his desk. "Drink this when you wake." He smiled to himself, unaware that the real test was no longer hers, it was his. The following afternoon, the sky over the Cole mansion turned soft gray, the kind that promised rain. Mia moved quietly through the study, dusting the edges of tall bookshelves and wiping the glass over framed photos. Ethan sat at his desk, appearing to work, but his attention kept drifting to her reflection in the window. She moved carefully, almost gracefully, humming under her breath again. The sound was faint, familiar somehow, like something his mother used to hum when she thought no one was listening. He looked down at his computer screen, but the words blurred. "Mia," he said suddenly, his voice softer than usual. She turned, startled. "Yes, sir? You like music, do you not?" Her cheeks colored slightly. "I do, sir. My mother used to sing when we cleaned the house. It made the work go faster." "She taught you that?" "Yes, sir, before she passed." Ethan nodded slowly, unsure what to say next. The silence between them was not uncomfortable, just real. Then the rain began, tapping gently against the glass. "You can take a break," he said, standing. "Sit for a moment. You do not have to clean through a storm." She hesitated, then perched on the edge of a nearby chair. "Thank you, sir." For a moment neither spoke. The soft rain filled the space like music. Ethan leaned against his desk, studying her face. "Mia, do you believe people can change?" She blinked, caught off guard. "I suppose they can, if they want to." He smiled faintly. "That is a simple answer." "Simple does not mean wrong," she said quietly. He looked at her, surprised by the quiet strength in her tone. Most people around him avoided real talk, preferring small compliments or empty flattery. But she spoke from somewhere honest. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Who?" "My mother," he answered before he could stop himself. She had the same way of making silence feel safe. Mia smiled gently. "Then she must have been a good person." He nodded, his throat tight. After a pause, she stood again, returning to her work. But his mind was still on her words long after she left the room. That night, Ethan sat alone in his office. The rain had stopped, leaving the city lights reflected across wet pavement. He opened the drawer and looked at the silver bracelet he had found. Turning it over, he thought of how carefully she worked, how she never complained. He took out his phone and dialed a number. "Clara," he said to his house manager, "there is a maid named Mia. I want you to make sure her workload is reduced. Give her a few afternoons off each week." "Of course, Mr. Cole. May I ask why?" "Just do it," he said, then paused. "And do not tell her I said so." The next morning, Mia entered the mansion early, finding a new schedule pinned to the notice board. Her name was listed with fewer tasks and shorter hours. She frowned, puzzled. The other staff whispered that perhaps the CEO had noticed her mistakes, that this was a sign she might be dismissed soon. Uneasy, she went about her duties, trying to work faster, better, quieter. Later that day, Ethan crossed paths with her in the hall. She bowed slightly, trying to pass, but he stopped her. "You seem worried," he said. "Is something wrong?" "No, sir. Just trying to do my best." "You already do." Her eyes flickered up in surprise. "Thank you, sir." As she turned to go, he added, "Oh, one more thing." He reached into his pocket and handed her the silver bracelet, now polished and fixed. "You dropped this." Her hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my, I thought I lost it forever." "Where did you bookshelf?" he said simply. "The clasp was broken, so I had it repaired." She blinked rapidly, emotion rising in her eyes. "Thank you, sir. It was my mother's. She gave it to me before she—" Her voice trailed off. Ethan nodded gently. "Then it is worth keeping safe." When she walked away, clutching the bracelet close to her chest, Ethan watched her go with a feeling he could not name. It was not pity, nor curiosity. It was something far quieter and far deeper. Days passed quietly after that, but the air in the Cole mansion felt different. The tension that usually surrounded the house seemed to soften, replaced by something unspoken that neither Ethan nor Mia could quite name. Ethan found himself noticing small details he had never cared for before: the way she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear when she was nervous, how she paused before entering a room as if asking permission from the silence itself. One morning, as he was leaving for work, he saw her in the garden feeding the stray cats that sometimes wandered through the gates. She was kneeling on the gravel, her skirt damp from the dew, gently pouring milk into a small bowl. "You know those cats are not part of the staff," he said from the steps. She turned, startled, then smiled faintly. "Yes, sir, but they looked hungry. It would feel wrong to ignore them." He shook his head, half amused. "You are too kind for your own good." "Kindness does not cost much," she replied softly. Her words lingered with him through the drive to the office. In meetings, his mind wandered. When his assistant asked for decisions, he had to ask her to repeat the question. That evening, when he returned, he found the mansion dim except for the kitchen light. Mia was still there, humming quietly as she wiped down the counters. "You should be home," he said. She looked up, surprised. "I had a few things left to finish." "You have been working since morning. You will burn out." She smiled. "It is all right, sir. I am used to long days." Ethan hesitated, watching her for a moment. "Sit for a minute, please." She obeyed, perching lightly on a stool. The silence between them stretched again, gentle but charged. "Mia, do you ever take care of yourself?" he asked. She blinked. "I take care of my brother. That is enough. That is not what I asked." She frowned slightly, unsure how to answer. "I suppose I do not think about it much." "You should," he said quietly. "You deserve to." She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if seeing beyond the title and the wealth. "You sound like someone who knows what it means to forget yourself." The words hit him harder than he expected. He looked away, smiling faintly. "Maybe I do." Outside, thunder rolled, followed by the first drops of a coming storm. Mia jumped at the sound. Ethan noticed the flicker of fear in her eyes. "Are you all right?" "It is silly," she said, embarrassed. "I just do not like storms." He walked to the window and closed it, muting the wind. "Then we will wait it out," he said calmly. They stood there for a while, the sound of rain filling the space again. Her reflection shimmered beside his in the glass, two figures separated by everything, and yet, in that moment, not at all. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. Mia gasped, clutching her apron. Ethan reached for the flashlight on the counter and turned it on, its warm beam catching her wide eyes. "Power lines," he said. They always go out in heavy rain. I will check the fuse box, she offered. No need. Stay here. But before he could stop her, she was already moving toward the hall. He followed, worried she might slip on the wet tiles. In the faint glow of the flashlight, she crouched beside the panel, examining it with careful hands. A small spark jumped, and she yelped softly, drawing back. Are you hurt? He asked, stepping closer. Just startled, she said, shaking her hand. He took her fingers gently, inspecting them. You should not be doing this alone. Someone has to, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. For a second, they stood close enough to hear each other breathe. The lights flickered back on, casting them in a soft glow. Neither moved. Ethan released her hand slowly. You are brave, he said. No, sir, just trying to help. That is what bravery looks like. When she smiled, it was small and unsure, but it lit something inside him. Later that night, long after she went to her room, Ethan sat in the study, unable to focus on anything else. The storm outside had passed, but something new had begun inside him, something he could no longer ignore. The next day, sunlight returned as if the storm had never happened. The mansion smelled faintly of coffee and lemon polish when Mia came downstairs, her hands still red from scrubbing floors the night before. Ethan was already in the living room, dressed for work, reading the morning paper. When he looked up, something about his expression was different, lighter somehow. Good morning, he said. She nodded politely. Good morning, sir. He studied her for a moment. How is your hand? She blinked in surprise. It is fine, sir. Just a little sore. Good, he said, folding the newspaper. You should be careful with electricity. I would rather not lose my best employee to a fuse box. The compliment caught her off guard. I am hardly your best employee, she said shyly. You might be, he replied. She smiled at that, her eyes bright for a moment before she hurried away to start her duties. Ethan watched her go, realizing he had just smiled before his morning coffee for the first time in years. Later that day, he returned home earlier than usual. The staff was cleaning the main hall for an upcoming charity event, and the air buzzed with activity. Mia was polishing the silver trays when Clara, the house manager, approached her. Mia, Mr. Cole wants to see you in the study. Her heart skipped. She quickly wiped her hands on her apron and made her way upstairs. Ethan stood by the window, his jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Papers and blueprints were spread across the desk. You wanted to see me, sir? She asked softly. He gestured toward a chair. Yes, please sit, I have a proposal. A proposal? Her voice trembled slightly. Nothing alarming, he assured her with a faint smile. I am organizing a community outreach program through my company. It focuses on rehabilitation for small businesses and families struggling after the flood last year. I need someone trustworthy to help manage the logistics from the local side. You know people, you understand hardship, and you have compassion. I believe you are perfect for it. Mia's mouth parted, speechless. Me? But I am only a maid. You are more than that, Ethan said firmly. You have a heart that sees people. That is rare. She shook her head. I would not know where to start. I will guide you, he said simply. You will learn. For a moment, she looked at him, unsure if this was real. Why me? She whispered. He paused, eyes softening. Because you remind me of what this house used to feel like when my mother was alive. Real, honest, human. Her throat tightened. She nodded slowly. If you believe I can help, I will do my best. I know you will, he said, handing her a folder. The first meeting is tomorrow morning. You will represent the household in my absence. She took the folder carefully, her hands trembling slightly. Thank you, sir. I will not disappoint you. You already have not. The next morning, Mia arrived early at the community center, where Ethan's foundation meeting was being held. She was nervous but determined. The board members looked surprised when she introduced herself, but her sincerity soon won them over. She spoke simply about empathy and small acts of kindness, echoing the same warmth that had touched Ethan days before. When she returned home that evening, Ethan was waiting by the fireplace, his tie loosened, a glass of water in his hand. How did it go? He asked. Better than I expected, she said, her face glowing with quiet pride. They listened, sir. They want to expand the program. He smiled, genuinely this time. I knew they would. There was a pause. Mia, he said, his voice lowering. You did something today that most people in my world cannot do. You made people feel something. She looked at him with a mix of awe and confusion. I just told the truth. Exactly, he said softly. And that is why you are different. For a long moment, neither moved. The fire crackled between them, the only sound in the vast room. In that warm, flickering light, something unspoken passed between them. A recognition of trust, of beginnings, of two lives quietly drawing closer. In the weeks that followed, the mansion seemed brighter somehow. Mia's new role with the foundation had changed her life, and Ethan noticed it in every small gesture. She walked with more confidence now, speaking a little louder, smiling a little more. The other staff began treating her with quiet respect, partly because of Ethan's subtle influence, partly because Mia had earned it. One crisp morning, Ethan left early for a meeting downtown. As he stepped into the car, Clara, the house manager, approached with a hesitant expression. "Sir, about the upcoming gala," she began. "The guest list includes some investors who have raised questions about the staff's involvement in company affairs. They may not take kindly to the idea of a maid representing you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She is not just a maid," he said. "She is an employee who earned my trust." "Of course, sir," Clara murmured, but her eyes flickered with unease. He dismissed her with a nod and drove off, but her words lingered in his mind like a shadow. That evening, when he returned home, the mansion buzzed with preparation for the gala. Florists arranged lilies, and decorators hung silver drapes along the grand staircase. Mia was helping set up the tables, her hair tied neatly, her uniform freshly pressed. When she saw Ethan, she smiled. "Good evening, sir. The arrangements are almost finished." "You have done a remarkable job," he said. "Are you attending tomorrow night?" She shook her head quickly. "Oh no, sir. I will be in the kitchen helping with service." Ethan frowned. "You should be there. This event is part of the foundation's work. You helped shape that." "But sir, people like me do not belong in rooms like that," she said softly. He stepped closer, his voice firm but kind. "You belong wherever integrity is needed, and that includes the ballroom." The next night, the gala shimmered with light and laughter. The city's wealthiest families mingled under crystal chandeliers, their conversations layered with polite flattery. Ethan stood near the entrance, greeting guests, but his eyes kept searching for Mia. When she finally appeared, she was almost unrecognizable. Clara had convinced her to wear a simple navy dress instead of her uniform, and though she looked nervous, she carried herself with quiet grace. As she passed a group of investors, whispers followed her. "Is that the maid, mister? Cole promoted?" one man muttered. "Ridiculous," another scoffed. Ethan heard them and felt anger rise, but before he could speak, Mia turned to face the group. "Good evening," she said calmly. "I just wanted to thank you for supporting the foundation. The families we help are not numbers on a report. They are people with names and stories. I have met them. I was one of them once." The table fell silent. "If kindness is ridiculous," she added softly, "then I suppose I am proud to be ridiculous." She gave a polite nod and walked away. Ethan watched her go, both stunned and proud. Later in the evening, he found her standing on the terrace, looking out at the city lights. "You handled that beautifully," he said. She turned, startled. "I am sorry if I spoke out of turn." "You spoke truth," he said simply. "That is never out of turn." For a moment, they stood side by side, the sound of the orchestra drifting through the open doors. Then Ethan said quietly, "You once told me you did not think you belonged in rooms like this. Do you still believe that?" Mia looked at him, her eyes reflecting the light from the chandeliers. "I am not sure," she admitted. "But tonight, I felt like maybe I do." He smiled. "You always did. It just took the rest of us a while to notice." She smiled back, shy but sincere. For the first time, Ethan realized that what had started as a test had become something far more personal. As the music swelled and laughter echoed from inside, he knew that this night marked a change he could never undo. The days after the gala felt like a calm after a long storm. Yet beneath that calm, change was quietly taking shape. Ethan found himself thinking about Mia more often than he wanted to admit. He remembered the way she had stood before those investors, her voice steady, her words honest. He had seen countless people try to impress him over the years, but no one had ever impressed him by being humble. One evening, a few days later, Ethan sat in his office finishing a report when Clara knocked gently. "Sir, there is a visitor asking for Mia. He claims to be her brother." Ethan looked up. "Her brother?" "Yes, sir. He is waiting in the foyer." Ethan rose at once. When he entered the hallway, he saw a thin young man, no older than 18, sitting nervously on the edge of a chair. His clothes were worn, and his face pale. Mia was beside him, speaking softly. When she saw Ethan, she stood quickly. "Mr. Cole, this is my brother Daniel," she said, her voice tight with worry. "He came to tell me the hospital called. His treatment fund has run out. They will stop his medication next week." Ethan's expression softened. "I see. How much does he need?" Mia shook her head quickly. "Please, sir. I did not bring this up to ask for money. I just needed to take a few days off to find another job to cover his bills." "Another job?" Ethan repeated. "You already work more than most people I know." "I will manage," she said quietly. Daniel tried to smile. "My sister always manages." Ethan looked at them both for a long moment, then said, "Daniel, go wait in the sitting room. I would like a word with your sister." When the boy left, Ethan turned to Mia. "Why did you not tell me this sooner?" "Because it is not your problem, sir. You have already done more than enough." "Do you think I helped you out of pity?" he asked sharply. She flinched at his tone. "No, sir. I just do not want to be a burden." His voice softened. "You are not a burden, Mia. You are the reason I started caring about more than profit again." Her eyes widened, emotion flickering behind them. "Mr. Cole." "Ethan," he corrected quietly. "When it is just us, call me Ethan." She hesitated, then whispered, "Ethan." The sound of her saying his name did something to him he could not explain. He took a deep breath. "I will handle your brother's medical bills," he said finally. "No arguments." She shook her head, tears forming. "I cannot accept that. It is not charity," he said firmly. "It is gratitude. You helped me remember what kindness looks like." A single tear escaped down her cheek, and she quickly wiped it away. "Thank you," she whispered. "But please let me pay it back someday." He smiled faintly. "Then you can do so by staying." The next morning, Ethan contacted his company's medical foundation and arranged for Daniel's treatment to be fully covered. When Mia learned of it, she came to his office with trembling hands. "You did not have to do that," she said. "I know," he replied simply, "but I wanted to." That night, as rain began to fall again, Ethan sat in the study with a book open in his lap, unread. He could hear Mia's soft voice from the hallway, comforting her brother over the phone. Her laughter carried through the walls, gentle and genuine. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something like peace. But peace, he soon realized, was fragile. The next morning, as he prepared to leave for work, Clara approached him with an uneasy look. "Sir, I thought you should know. Some of the investors are asking questions about your relationship with Miss Mia. They believe she is being favored unfairly." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Let them ask. I owe no one an explanation. They are threatening to pull out of the Foundation's program if she continues representing it." For a moment he said nothing, staring out the window at the rain-slicked driveway. Then, quietly, he replied, "If they cannot see the value she brings, then they are the ones who do not belong." As he walked away, his reflection flickered in the glass half shadow, half light, just like the truth he was beginning to face. This was no longer about a test. It was about a feeling he could no longer hide. 2 days later, tension hung over the Cole mansion like heavy air before a storm. Word had spread quickly that Ethan's investors were withdrawing support, claiming he had compromised professional boundaries for a maid. Ethan ignored the rumors, but Mia could feel the whispers every time she passed through the hallways. The staff who once smiled now avoided her gaze. That evening, as she was packing donation boxes for the foundation, Ethan found her in the storage room. "You should not be doing that," he said quietly. "Clara can handle it." She shook her head. "It helps me stay calm." "Calm?" he echoed. "You are being blamed for something you did not do. That is nothing new, sir. People see what they want to see." Her voice was steady, but he noticed her trembling hands. "I can fix this," he said. "I will call a press conference and set the record straight." She looked at him, alarmed. "Please do not. That would only make things worse. The more attention we draw, the harder it becomes for both of us." "Both of us?" he asked softly. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "You have worked your whole life to build your reputation. I cannot let my presence ruin that." Ethan stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. Mia, listen to me. You are not ruining anything. You have reminded me what matters. If I lose investors because I stood by someone decent, then I lose them gladly. Her lips parted, but no words came. Before she could answer, Clara entered, her face pale. Sir, there are reporters outside the gate. They are asking if the rumors are true that you are having an affair with your maid. Mia gasped softly. Ethan's expression darkened. This is nonsense. It will not stay nonsense for long, Clara said. They have photos from the gala, you two on the terrace. It looks intimate. Ethan turned to Mia. Stay inside. I will handle this. Please, sir, let me leave, she whispered. If I go away, they will stop. No, he said firmly. Running will only prove them right. But Mia's mind was made up. That night, long after the lights went out, she packed her few belongings into a small suitcase. The bracelet Ethan had repaired glimmered faintly in the lamplight. She touched it once, tears welling in her eyes, then set it on the nightstand. At dawn, Ethan woke to find her gone. Her room was empty except for the note on the pillow. The handwriting was small and careful. Thank you for everything. Please do not look for me. This is the only way to protect your name. His heart sank as he read it. He rushed downstairs, demanding answers, but Clara only handed him a taxi receipt found by the front gate. She left before sunrise, Clara said gently. Ethan stared at the paper, then at the empty driveway outside. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. Days turned into weeks. The foundation stabilized again after Ethan gave a public statement denying the false rumors, but his voice had no warmth. He went to work, attended meetings, smiled when he had to, but inside, everything felt hollow. One evening, he returned to his office to find Daniel waiting for him, now healthier, his cheeks full of color. Mr. Cole, the boy said quietly, I wanted to thank you for helping me. You do not owe me thanks, Ethan said. You owe that to your sister. Daniel nodded. She told me not to tell you where she went, but she also told me something else. She said that you are not as cold as people think. She said you just forgot how to be seen. Ethan's throat tightened. Did she? Yes. She also said if you ever find the bracelet, you will know what to do. When Daniel left, Ethan opened his desk drawer. The silver bracelet lay there, gleaming under the lamplight, its engraving catching his eye. To my daughter, with love. He closed his hand around it, feeling the weight of what he had lost and what he still needed to find. As rain began to fall outside again, he whispered to himself, Mia, I am not done proving you wrong. Months passed, and winter painted the city in quiet silver. The Cole mansion stood as grand as ever, but its rooms felt emptier without her laughter. Ethan threw himself into work, expanding the foundation and funding dozens of community projects, yet nothing filled the hollow silence she had left behind. He often caught himself listening for the sound of soft humming that would never come. Every night, he took the silver bracelet from his desk drawer and turned it in his hands, the engraving whispering a memory he could not forget. One December morning, Clara entered his office with a hesitant smile. Sir, she said, there is an art exhibition downtown sponsored by our foundation. The director sent a personal invitation. You might want to see it. Ethan frowned. An art exhibition? Yes, sir. The theme is kindness. He hesitated, then nodded. Prepare the car. That evening, he arrived at the small gallery tucked between city blocks, far humbler than the places he usually visited. The walls were lined with simple painting scenes of people helping one another, hands reaching out, small moments of grace. Then he saw it. At the center of the room hung a large canvas depicting a woman placing a blanket over a sleeping man on a couch. The colors were soft, tender, heartbreakingly familiar. Beneath it was a small plaque that read, Acts of Care, Artist, Mia Thompson. For a long moment, Ethan could not move. Then he heard a voice behind him, gentle, steady, unmistakable. You should not stand that close to the painting. It might make you look sentimental. He turned. She was there. Mia stood a few feet away, wearing a modest blue dress and holding a stack of flyers. Her hair was shorter now, her eyes a little wiser, but her smile was exactly as he remembered. For a second, neither spoke. Then Ethan exhaled, the breath he had been holding for months. You disappeared, he said quietly. I asked you not to look for me, she replied. But you did. Of course I did, he said. You were never just a maid to me, Mia. She looked down, her fingers twisting the edge of the flyers. I needed to find myself again, to prove that I could stand on my own, The foundation helped me open this gallery. I wanted to show what kindness can build. He stepped closer, his voice soft. You built more than art, Mia. You built hope for people like me. Her eyes met his, shimmering with tears. I thought helping others was enough, she said, but part of me always hoped you would come. He reached into his pocket and held out the bracelet. You left this behind, she gasped softly. I thought it was gone. It was never gone, he said. I kept it because it reminded me of the night I failed my own test. I pretended to sleep to see if you were honest, but you were the one who woke me up. She covered her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. Ethan took her hand gently and placed the bracelet back on her wrist. Mia, he said, his voice trembling just enough to sound human, I do not care about the investors or the rumors. I care about the woman who taught me what integrity looks like. I care about you. For a heartbeat, silence filled the space between them. Then she whispered, Are you sure? Completely, he said. You changed me, and if you let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve the chance. Her lips trembled into a smile. You already have. Around them, people moved through the gallery, oblivious to the moment unfolding. Ethan leaned closer, resting his forehead against hers, the world narrowing to the sound of their breaths. The camera lights from the exhibit glimmered against the silver bracelet on her wrist, now whole again. Months later, when the foundation opened a new wing named the Mia Thompson Center for Kindness, the press called it a philanthropic milestone. But for Ethan and Mia, it was simply the place where their story had found its truth. And as they stood together at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, surrounded by those whose lives they had touched, Ethan whispered the words he had once written on a folded note years before. Drink this when you wake. Mia smiled, her eyes shining. I already did.